This is reloading to redraw the screen. So I'm Kevin Henrikson from Zimbra, and I'm going to talk about our collaboration suite. First of all, how many of you heard of Zimbra already? Tried the demo? Anybody? Cool. All right, so for those of you that already heard it, you'll see some stuff that's repeated, and I'll try to demo some of the new things we're working on here once this guy reloads.
Not connected, right? May not be working.
So this is actually one of our latest builds. We're planning on pushing a new build in the next couple weeks. The new things we've added are remote ICS files. So you can now, like an iCal and Apple, you can suck an ICS file off the internet and display that. Shared calendar between multiple users. So similar to Exchange, you can delegate access to your calendar. We've also added RSS feeds and Atom feeds. You can create a folder. Instead of having mail in it, you can set it as an RSS feed. More of an eye candy feature. It's probably not the best RSS reader out there. It's just one more thing that that it does.
You might need to re-log into it, like from scratch. Close
cool.
It, just reload it. But it is online.
So it's a 100% Ajax client. There's a couple JSPs we use to bootstrap it. The back end is a Java server. Everything's exposed with SOAP APIs. So if you want to go and hack and pull calendar events out, add contacts, pull out messages, all of that supported. Essentially from the, I think we're good to go. Okay, cool.
When you say Ajax client, you mean there's no client, it's just through the web?
Ajax, yeah, it's running Ajax in a browser, right? So currently we support Firefox and IE. We've got Safari sort of working, but we're still trying to work out some bugs with those guys. If you look at, this is like, looks like a normal inbox, sort of. You'll see a couple things like the numbers on the side. This is conversations. So you've probably seen these if you've ever used Gmail. You pop open a conversation and you can see a little fragment of the message. One thing that we allow is you can drag and drop. So if let's say I put these over in sent, it updates. And so the conversations can span folders. So if you grab a message and maybe throw one in trash or junk, again, doesn't matter, right? It spans all of the folders without a problem. We have the notion of tags. So you can drag a tag to a message, or drag a message to a tag maybe. It's taking a break.
Yeah. So you're showing us the client here, but I guess there's the main thing that you guys are offering is the service.
We offer both, right? It's 100% open source. We do have a network version that adds some features on top of that. But the server has put, we put a lot of effort into the server, right? Which supports conversation, has the calendar, does all of basically the features that this exposes.
Well, I'm sorry, but what I meant is I can't just use this client against an Exchange server or against some arbitrary POP3 or INAP server. Correct. Our server, this client only works with our server. It talks SOAP using, XHR. Right, so some people have actually tried to do that, right? Basically you could build an IMAP to SOAP proxy to do that, or SOAP to IMAP. So you have saved searches. Let me go ahead and pull up.
You mentioned XHR.
XML HTTP request. It's like what Ajax, everything's Ajax.
Are you using the same SOAP API as the new Yahoo Mail, or just one you created yourself?
We have our own.
Okay.
We have our own. And the responses come back in JSON, so XML is pretty slow to parse, and so especially for big result sets, so we actually respond in JSON. So some of the mail you can see here is highlighted. If you hover over like a URL, it pops up like a preview of the site. You hover over a date, it would pop up your calendar for that day. There's no appointments in there.
And it's smart about the date, because next Friday was...
Correct, it's contextual based on the mail. So I can just say like, okay, I want to add a meeting. And then once that refreshes, you'll actually see it in there. You can hover over an address. It goes out to Yahoo, grabs a map. We also have Google Maps. That's just, I have it set up for Yahoo right now. Hover over an email, you get some options. You maybe want to go and just search for other other messages that have been sent from that mail. It'll go to our search builder and start kind of building you a search, send a mail, the obvious one, that's the same as the default click. Add to contacts, and then one thing that the sales guys love, because they get mails from all these random people, they can go to the address. So it parses out the URL or the domain, and then you can just click on that, it'll go to the web page. Some more kind of enterprise type features is it recognizes PO numbers. Again, it's configurable. You can figure out what you want to do, and you can integrate with your back-end office system. And this is just an example. There's obviously a multitude of different enterprise, maybe backends you'd want to integrate with a bug tracking database support. And we're going to provide some really flexible APIs to allow this to be pretty simple and declarative. Tracking numbers. So if you just click on a tag, it does a search, pretty simple. Now I'll show some of the newer things we're working on. So this is a calendar, and you can see there's multiple calendars in here. The Penguins one is just a remote ICS file. It's the schedule for the hockey team. Jim is a guy that's sharing his calendar with me, so I click on that, and it adds his calendars now overlaid on top of mine. One thing that people who schedule a lot of meetings have trouble with is trying to find free busy spots, and so looking at this view, or if I go to the actual day view, it's hard to tell, what's the free time, and especially in this compressed screen. So what we've added is a thing called schedule view, and so here what it does, it goes side by side with all the calendars you have shared. Here I've only got 2, but we could put out 5, 6, 7, 8, depending on how many people you have shared their calendar with you. And we have this thing called the thermometer. So you hover over it and it shows who's busy for that period. So the darker red, it means it's more people are blocked. The lighter pink means that only maybe one person has that blocked, and then white's obviously a free time. It's all drag and drop built, so I can drag events. I can sash it, so I want to change the time. Go into maybe week view. So I get there. I can grab an event and drag it to a different day if it moves. All that. If you hover over maybe a date in the calendar, again it pops up. I don't have a very interesting description, so there's not much there. So if you're maybe composing a new mail or something and you're like, oh, I forgot like what I was doing on a certain day, you can just simply pull up, this is kind of your mini cal here, and just again gives you that quick view of what's going on then. Spell check, that's something else we've also added in this build. So we use a spell, and you can spell check your messages that you're typing as you go. How am I doing on time? A few more minutes? What time do I have till? Okay. Just really quickly, I'll show one more little feature. This is something that's been in there since the first build, but it's basically a search builder. So if you're not familiar with our query language, you can basically build your searches kind of like WYSIWYG, and I might want to just say, you can pick like a domain. Say, okay, let's say all the mails from, I need to go into message view.
You can actually go along with next guy's cancel.
Oh, okay, cool, thanks. So let me go back and start this over so I can.
It's like a faceted search.
Say again?
It's faceted, like a faceted search.
Correct. So the search is actually 3 components. So we've got a basic MySQL database that indexes all the headers and the metadata. So if you want to just search on flags or tags or folders, dates, those kind of things are in MySQL because it's really good for that. If you want to actually search on the text of a message, we route the search through Lucene, which is our indexing. And then there's also those are kind of the 2 main things that we search on, and then the query parser actually determines what's the best medium for that type of search. So I want to go over here and run a search. So I want to just get mails from Roland. It pulls that up, and maybe I just want mails from Roland from like last year. Pulls that up. Or if I know that Roland sent me a mail with an attachment, I'm looking for like what's the attachment. So I can click on attachment. It'll say, okay, anything that's got an attachment. Then I'll say maybe it was just a PDF file, and I know there's some PDF file that he sent me at some point. You click on PDF, and it says, okay, this is the mail with a PDF file in it. In our network version, we actually index the attachments as well. We use a third-party product from Verity to do that, so we can't actually open source it because it's not ours. But it allows you to search about 200 different attachment types. So if you did a word search, not only does it search Lucene, but it also rips in through all of your attachments and pulls out words inside of your attachments. At any time, you can just click on the Save tab, and then it'll save it as a saved search. So maybe you always you currently want to look for a lot of messages from Roland. Just save that. And you can see now I just can click on Roland at any time and it just reruns the search. When you're in IMAP, actually, we expose all the searches as regular folders. So all of that searching, the saved searches that you build out if you're on an IMAP client, Thunderbird, Outlook, or the likes, you can just run those searches as if they're normal folders. They're obviously read-only because we don't want you writing into a search folder. A couple other things we're working on that haven't been released yet is an Outlook plugin, so a Mappy provider, and that'll allow to have full offline access, sync, all the things that you would normally expect in Outlook. Yeah.
Can you go over the installation process and how, basically you show how it works, but how do I make this work and what exactly does it do? For those, I've installed it, made it work, but some people,
sure,
you haven't gone over that.
So we currently release on Fedora Core 3 and Red Hat for Enterprise Linux. It's really simple. You download a monster tar file off our website, and it's got a script called install.sh, and you basically answer 4 or 5 different questions, tell it what your domain is, give it an admin password, and it takes about 10 minutes, and it installs everything for you, Open LDAP, MySQL, basically 40 or 50 different open source dependencies that we have, all configures it. We have an admin UI that you allow to create users. We also have a command line interface to do any kind of provisioning you need or any kind of changes to the system. So unlike some of the other open source projects out there where you download like their code, then you got to go and suck up all their dependencies and kind of install them individually, we've kind of packaged all that up and made it relatively straightforward for a pretty novice person, and we've had a lot of Windows people that have never had Linux experience come over and install it in a matter of minutes.
Are there any plans to move to like general Unix and like that?
Yeah, so you asked if there's any other plans to support other Linuxes. We support Mac OS, so in-house we've got that running, and we're going to be releasing probably 3 or 4 more ports eventually. Mac OS, let's see. No, we're not going to do Windows because Postfix doesn't run on Windows. There's no MTA.
You have it running on there?
I don't have an MTA.
Oh.
So it's running on Windows right now, but there's no MTA.
Right.
SUSE and Debian are probably the next 3 that'll come out. In general, we release the source. So if you have a particular OS you want it to run on, people have got it running on Gen 2. Somebody's done a BSD port. So if you go to our community forums on our website, you'll see instructions how to do a multitude of different ports. Yeah.
Show me the money. Where are you making money here?
Good question. So a lot of people ask, what's our business model, right? And so right now we're VC backed, so that's how we're currently, we're not making money, we're not selling it. It's actually not for sale right now. We're not actually going to start cutting contracts and probably until the mid or end November.
Who are your customers?
Enterprises. So the primary focus right now, or what seems to be the most interest, are people that are running some kind of open source mail server now, maybe Cyrus IMAP or some kind of just hacked together open source system, and this provides basically the full stack and a pretty good UI for them to use. The other thing, so educational institutions, colleges, schools, and then also we're seeing a lot of people that really want to get off Exchange, right? And so right now we don't have shared folders in some of the pieces that the really hardcore Exchange users use, so that won't be the first kind of customers we're getting. But we've got several ISPs that have already running it in production. They've downloaded the open source version and fired it up, and so surprised us.
So would you think it'd be better to do it like as clients or just like as a web service?
So right now, the goal is to ship it as software, right? You sell it, and we have a network version, and the biggest thing you get in a network version is support. You'll also get a couple of the other closed source pieces that we can't release due to licensing restrictions.
Wouldn't they get all your new features when they're ready?
Absolutely, yeah. And so then we're also looking at appliance model. We've got a lot of people interested in doing a hosted Zimbra, so similar to hosted Exchange, right? For the small guys, there's tons of people that are trying to figure out how they're going to do that.
Are you going to create some sort of process for migrating private network stores, Exchange, to...
Absolutely. So we have on our website right now an Exchange migration wizard. You open it up, you point it at your Exchange instance, it sucks the accounts out of AD, and just pops all the messengers right over into Zimbra.
Does it handle corrupt Exchange databases?
Corrupt Exchange databases? No. So yeah. That's one thing I didn't...
No, it's a serious question.
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
Because you know you have the Exchange stores and then you have the logs.
Yep.
I mean, does it read off of the logs? Or
No, we read off MAPI. So you create a MAPI provider and it sucks the data off via MAPI and AD.
Oh wow.
We also, for like the open source guys out there that are running Cyrus IMAP or some kind of IMAP server, we have just an IMAP sync. It's just like a Perl script. It's for open source that just basically sucks the mail over an IMAP and copies your data over. As it comes in our IMAP interface, we run all the indexing on it and parse the messages as if it came in normally, so you get all the functionality of search, all your folders instantly available.
So then you don't have to replay the logs, so then you wouldn't have a corrupt Exchange database.
Right, so that, I see your point. I mean, yeah, one thing I probably didn't talk about is that people out there that are administering mail systems or whoever had to administer Exchange have probably went through the nightmares of trying to recover an Exchange system. And so we're hoping by some of the things we've done here to make it easier on the administrative side as well.
What about from Yahoo Mail, so from a small business?
Yeah, so if you've got IMAP access into Yahoo Mail, you point the IMAP sync tool at your IMAP instance, it sucks all the mail right over.
How about importing of PST files?
Yep, so right now the process for PST files is not that clean. Basically, you load it up in Outlook and just drag the folders over to IMAP. It works, but it's probably not the best way to go. Eventually, we want to take the Exchange provider and be able to have a bulk import. So point it at 30 PST files and have it suck all of those into Zimbra.
And did you say that you were going to have a client that was like similar to Outlook?
We're gonna allow you to use Outlook. So essentially, Outlook has a notion of storage providers. You can actually, instead of having it talk to Exchange, you can have it talk to Zimbra. You can replace the storage provider.
Is it in the plans anywhere to replace the actual client?
We're not.
Functionality that Outlook doesn't have.
Mm-hmm.
That would be nice to use.
Yep. So right now we're not planning on rewriting Outlook. That's probably would take a long time. But we're looking at supporting Thunderbird, obviously through IMAP. Evolution, maybe a provider for that. We've talked to the Mozilla guys. We've talked to the Chandler guys. They have a client. Maybe use their calendar client. I don't know. There's a lot of different options out there. Any other questions?
So right now, the client side, there's no offline. You have to be connected.
So when you're using it in the web browser, yeah, there's no really good way to do offline with Ajax. So Firefox is looking at adding some local storage, and we're also looking at investigating writing like a little small Java program that would run locally on your computer, and then we could sync through that. Right now, what we're recommending for offline access is what people do today, right? Run Thunderbird, run some local mail client. Apple Mail.
How about other public stores or something similar where multiple users can share files?
So by adding Calendar, the server now supports public folders. Calendar is just a folder in our system. And so by adding multiple shared folders, you have shared Calendar. We haven't exposed the share folder interface through the UI yet, but it's right on the edge. It's coming up. Cool. All right, that's all. Thanks, guys.
Woo!